This is it. Here in front of me is the 2025 Volvo XC90 plug-in hybrid. I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, hey, Marcus, this does not look like what some are calling the 2025.5 XC90, the one that's been updated. And you'd be right, it's not. It might seem complicated upon first glance, but today I'm just gonna simplify it for you guys. Let's get into it. All right, so yes, this is the 2025 model, but it does not have the update. So that's why some are calling the updated version the 25.5 model. I guess Volvo was just slightly late on their updates, but now it's 2025 and the new updated one is being sold to customers, while this, the quote unquote old new one, is still available until they run out. So the front end of this one is still effectively the same as the XC90s looked for, 10 years at this point. It's aged beautifully. It's aged gracefully. Of course, the new all-electric EX90 is out, so that gets rid of the grille altogether, while the new updated front end just basically creates slimmer headlights. They go further into the grille. They're kind of just more seamlessly integrated into the grille. The grille's completely different. I think it looks phenomenal. It's a little bit more aggressive and kind of, it's not quite angry looking, but it does have a few more edges that this one in front of me today does not have. They both have a similar amount of chrome to them, so if that's your look, it kind of goes with the whole Volvo aesthetic. It's not a menacing vehicle in any way. This one's been spec'd in this vapor gray, awesome paint color. It's just bright. Even on a cloudy day like today, it really pops. And I think the updated front bumper just doesn't just enough to change the look of the XC90 without making it look like the EX90, which of course, the EX90 is an all new platform. It's electric EV from the ground up, whereas this plug-in hybrid has just kind of adopted the battery and everything that we'll get into in a second onto the gas-powered chassis that's been around for so long. So not only has the front end been completely redesigned, there are new wheel options as well. This one has the diamond cut alloy wheels here, 21 inches on this Recharge, but there are a bunch of new options with the new updated model. So the one we're driving is the T8, and what that means is under the hood is a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4. Wow, that is a giant hood. I'm not gonna be tall enough to close that. That's incredible. I guess I'll have to lower the air suspension. It also has an electric motor in the back and an 18.8 kilowatt hour battery. So that enables it to run 55 kilometers on electric only range. That's 32 miles. And then an additional, anywhere between 500 and potentially 800 kilometers on top of that in gas-only range. So it kind of gets the best of both worlds. If you want to stay in the city and just use electric power only, you can do that. And then once you're on the freeway where the gas engine is incredibly efficient, then you can do that. And then once the battery's dead, it effectively just operates as a standard hybrid system. Albeit, yeah, you're lugging around the battery unnecessarily if you haven't charged it up. It'll get an average of 28 miles per gallon or 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers. But let's go drive, because there's a ton more changes on the interior. I think the most important ones. Yeah, the rear end of the XC90 has really not been updated much. So effectively this update, what Volvo's doing with it is trying to aesthetically and with the user interface, which we'll get into in a second, huge changes there. They're trying to make it as close to the EX90, that all-electric SUV, as much as they can, with this being a gasoline-powered vehicle on a gasoline chassis that's been around for 10 years. So they're doing what they can to keep this around, because Volvo's already promised that they're going all electric. Originally, the goal was 2030, but they've backtracked, as so many manufacturers have done, which I think just creates a bad look, honestly, for the manufacturer. I don't think they intended to do that initially, but it's a terrible look. Stellantis, I mean, that's a mess right now. But Volvo is kind of in a similar scenario, or was at least, when talking about their EV promises. But under the hood, like I mentioned, this one's the T8, which is the top of the line plug-in hybrid model. It makes 455 horsepower and 523 pound-feet of torque. Let's just put our drive mode into power. Gasoline engine just fired up. Initially, when I just came off the line there, I was in pure mode, which is EV only, but hit the power mode, then the gasoline engine's always going to be on. Tach changes to an actual tach. There we go, there's some power. Took a second. If you're just cruising and then you mat it, the torque feels great, but there is still a little bit of a changeover just when the 8-speed auto is downshifting. Other than that though, the T8 powertrain here is more power than you'll ever need, more torque than you'll ever need. It's so incredibly quick. It's quicker than the MDX Type S. It's quicker than the GV80 I just drove, and it is all in all, overall, seamless, impressive, and it does everything that a Volvo needs to do, okay? If you're an enthusiast, if you're looking for a performance SUV, something that's fun and engaging to drive on a back road, the XC90 is just not it. The electric motor in the back, which is exclusively powering the rear wheels, does an awesome job in torque fill. There's torque everywhere. The 2-liter engine is good. It's got a good growl to it. It's actually one of the best sounding 4-cylinder engines in a luxury SUV. It doesn't take away as much as it could have from the refinement of the vehicle. Yes, the V6 counterparts, like I mentioned, the MDX Type S and the GV80, yeah, the V6s give those vehicles just a little bit more of a refined premium feel, a little bit, and this definitely in the corners, when you begin pushing it, ironically, 2 less cylinders, it feels more kind of nose heavy than those other ones, just because this all-wheel drive platform is front bias. The MDX has the torque vectoring rear differential. The GV80 is rear bias, or can send a ton of the torque to the rear, while this, the rear axle, is only powered by that electric motor. Okay, while we're waiting for this train here, I will talk about suspension, because that's where some of the changes come into, not this one, but the updated new 2025 0.5 XC90. So the one I'm driving right now is configured on air suspension. So that stays the same. That has 4-corner adaptive air ride effectively, and those dampers will, via the camera in front, it will read the road ahead and predict kind of what it needs to do and iron out the suspension. That way, it'll also do that just by kind of taking in my driver inputs and smooth it out. It will also self-level the vehicle. The XC90 rides well on air suspension. It's not the best. The MDX rides smoother, a little bit more comfortable, and the GV80 and this both over big bumps. You hit a big bump, they kind of shudder a little bit. This is not as comfortable over those large bumps as I would have expected from air suspension. So the new XC90's standard suspension has been updated. So if you don't want to spend those few extra $1,000 on the air suspension, which might not be worth it, unless maybe you need the ability to raise or lower the vehicle for off-road scenarios, in power mode it does lower it for a little bit more of a lower center of gravity, or if you're unloading or loading in the rear from the hatch, you can lower it for a little bit easier in and out capabilities, just to get things in and out easier. If you don't need that, maybe the selective dampers in the new XC90 will be enough. Volvo calls it, I think, frequency selective damping. So they will react to the road individually and effectively just give you a more comfortable ride. So there is that. They also have made the XC90 a little bit quieter, so in the pillars there's just a little bit more sound deadening. Brake feels good. There's no noticeable changeover from regen braking here to the actual brake calipers. There's a ton of stopping power. Yeah, it feels big on the road. It's an XC90, but it is smooth. It's comfortable. Steering's nice. You can get it really light if you want to, or you can firm it up. And it just does exactly what you need a 3-row SUV to do as a daily commuter. All right, so the interior of the XC90 has been updated dramatically. We all know this is an older platform. They're doing as best they can with what they have. The dashboard has been updated. It's a lot closer to that EX90. And most importantly, the center screen here, Android-based system, has been updated. It's gone from this 9-inch screen, which at this point looks dated. It works fine, but there's a lot of kind of digging through menus and stuff. That's been updated to an 11.2-inch tablet style kind of tacked on screen here. The Bowers & Wilkins optional audio system, which this one I'm driving today has been spec'd with. The speaker covers are changed there. There's a few other different materials, which, by the way, Volvo does incredibly well, I'd say, over the MDX especially. The interior materials here just feel a little bit more upscale for the most part. The seats are the same going forward. This one's been spec'd in Napa leather. It's got massage function. These are, I mean, Volvo is like top for around $100,000 Canadian as far as seats go. They're exceptional. They've got all the adjustments, four-way lumbar, and all of that. The rest of the screen is a huge upgrade, let's be honest, okay? You won't any longer have to go down here to the right side, open the menu, hit driving mode or hit sound all of the time, even to just change up your steering weight. Most of that is enabled via a new multitasking setup in which your most frequently used apps or apps you've recently used show up down on the bottom in little widgets, and then you can still have the map displayed at the same time. And then, of course, your climate control is still in the screen with everything else. So it's a better system. It's not perfect, but they're absolutely doing a much better job in kind of keeping it up to date. One huge downside, you guys, still no wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, Marcus, really? I have to buy a new XC90 in order to get this new screen, these new software updates that the XC90 desperately needs at this point? I have good news, because that's not quite the case. Volvo has promised gradually, I think is the word they used, over the course of this year, 2025, they're updating all 2020 and up models, most of their models, with this new software. So yeah, you won't get the new 11.2-inch screen and the upgraded resolution that comes with, but you will get the updated software and multitasking and previously used apps and widgets and all that stuff. They've also updated the center console here. So no Volvo product, the press vehicles that I've driven have been spec'd with wireless chargers. I don't know why. I'm sitting in the Ultra. This is fully spec'd, and I still don't have wireless charging. So I don't know what's up with that, but needless to say, Volvo's added a standard wireless charger to the new XC90 that's placed right here in this kind of unused space currently in the front of the gear selector. And they've also added a third cup holder for a smaller drink. So you have technically 3 cup holders in the center. Center console here, not the best in storage, especially compared to the EX90, which does a lot better in using this tunnel storage underneath here, which is surprising because that's a full EV, but you know, they built that, like I mentioned, from the ground up. So they did make up some better storage solutions, which are still missing for the XC90. But the rear seats still heated, ventilated. They have their own climate control. It is a third row. It's usable, kind of. I mean, it's for kids, or if you're a really small adult in an emergency. If you don't need the extra storage space in the back, you can use the third row. It doesn't have the function, 2 things actually. It doesn't have a spare tire because it's got the electric motor in the back and the battery. You aren't able to put down the second row seats from the back when you're standing at the hatch, manually or electronically. That is so frustrating. But as far as like fit, finish, feel, it's a luxury SUV through and through. And these small changes that I mentioned today make a massive difference. So this Ultra I'm sitting in right now starts at 93,000 Canadian or $72,000 USD. As tested with the options this one has, the Bowers & Wilkins audio system, the air suspension, and these massage seats, it sits at $102,000 Canadian or $88,000 USD. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. New XC90, let me know what you guys think. We'll see you next time.